So I've been at the Madison County Archives since 2011, and Mr. Tom Aud was our former director there. And then I was reluctantly named the Archives Director in 2020. And my co-worker is Paulette Fairchild, and we work together to help preserve Madison County's archives. The title of my presentation tonight is I Found It in the Archives, because people get excited, you know, where did you find that record? Where did you find that information? Oh, I found it in the archives. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the records that we have in the archives, some interesting, what I think interesting records, especially to genealogists, records that might be of interest to you. So what is the Madison County Archives? We are a Madison County, Tennessee government office. We are budgeted and funded by the county, Madison County. We are responsible for preserving, organizing, and managing the county office's records that are deemed by the state of Tennessee as permanent and or of historical significance. Every record a county office produces, some are working papers, some records are temporary. That makes some researchers mad, you know, but you know, we can't keep the county offices can't not keep every record that they produce. So the state of Tennessee, the State Library and Archives, we follow their archival standards to the best of our ability to take care of the permanent and or historically significant records. We also help the county offices follow the UT County Technical Assistance Service. They have a records retention schedule, which helps each county office determine how long their record needs to be kept, when it can be disposed of, and how it can be disposed of. And that's in conjunction with our County Public Records Commission. We do have an active Public Records Commission. What we basically do at the archives is we assist you. We assist patrons in finding county offices records, which may include genealogical information. We find that the best resources for finding genealogical information are probate court records, guardian files, deed books, and county clerk records, vital records, births. Not that we have birth certificates, because we don't, but some records of births, marriages, that type of thing. The quote at the bottom of the slide there is from the King's College website in Cambridge, the United Kingdom. And it says that archives are important because they provide evidence of activities and tell us more about individuals and institutions. They tell stories. They also increase our sense of identity and understanding of cultures. So archives hold the story of us, hold the story of society. Even earlier, actually, than 1930, but this record is from 1930 that is actually in our archives. That is a case for counties having archives. This is correspondence from the Society of Colonial Wars in the state of Tennessee. They were based in Knoxville, and this was received by the Madison County Court in September of 1930. And it's basically a plea to the local county court to make efforts to preserve its old records, documents, and archives. That's important for the continued conservation, preservation, and arrangement of county government records to be seen and used by the interested public, including for genealogical research. Going over those three steps there, the county archives. Conservation, we do limited conservation. Any in-depth conservation needs to be done by a professional. We're not professionals at that. But part of our conservation is we put records in archival file folders, archival boxes, acid-free. We clean lots of coal soot off of some of the old records with dry sponges. Any papers that are folded are unfolded and uncreased. We take out any metal fasteners, staplers, paper clips, anything like that. That's some of the conservation and preservation that we do. And then arrangement of the archives, since it's all about the records at the archives, our arrangement has sort of like 4 levels. The first, when we get county records in, or we discover county records and we process them, get them ready to be used by patrons. The first thing we do, the first level, is the county office. What office created the record? There's some examples of the county offices we have here in Madison County, some of the records that we have from the county clerk, clerk and master, register of deeds, the trustee, the circuit court, criminal and civil. We have cases of both of those. Chancery court, assessor of property, we have records from that office. The county mayor, a few records from them. So that's the first level of arrangement. The second level is a record series, and that's a distinct set of ordered files that represents a specific function. For example, 2 record series in the county clerk office. They have many different types of records in the county clerk office, but 2 are county legislative body minutes and marriage files. And then the third level is the title of the record title. An example of that, going back to the county legislative body minutes, there's lots of different types of documents in the county legislative body minutes. Motions, orders, petitions, requests, that type of thing. So it's an umbrella, sort of an umbrella effect with the levels that we go through. The office, and then what type of series, record series it is, and then the title of the record. And then when we're ready to arrange them, the 4th level, actually put them on shelves, or in containers and on shelves, is chronologically or alphabetically. That sort of depends on the record itself. Some records lend themselves more to be arranged alphabetically, like the marriage files. We have them arranged by decades. We found that was the easiest way to group those. We arranged those by decades. Ms. Starla helped us with that about 7, 8, 9 years ago. We did those. And so that's chronologically, and then within each decade, they're arranged alphabetically by the groom's last name. So we know that most of our researchers, most of our patrons are researchers, and you want to find someone in most of the records. Can you give me everything you have on my great-great-great-granddaddy, John Smith? And it's like, well, we're not exactly like the Tennessee Room. We don't have vertical files, specifically, or subject files. We don't have a file with every record of John Smith. If John Smith owned property, we'll look him up in the deeds. If he passed away in Madison County, he might have a probate court record, so we look him up there. We don't intermingle the records. We don't put all of John Smith's records together. We have to follow provenance. How do you pronounce that? Provenance, and that helps keep the integrity of the record too. So that's how we do that. Some researchers don't like that either, but that's just how we have to do it. And then our record formats, we have loose papers, just papers. Sometimes the record is on a legal sheet, a sheet of legal paper. Sometimes it's on a scrap piece of paper. Sometimes it's on, we've had a few records that are on, they're written on the backs of unused election ballots. So it just depends, So we have loose papers, and what we do with those after we process them, we put them into archival file folders. We label them according to that records arrangement, the county office, the record series, and a title or description, and a year. We always have a year in the corner of the file folder. So that's how we take care of loose papers. And then of course we have bound volumes, we have books. And we put those, if they need it, we put those into archival boxes to protect them from UV light. And if there was any case of flood damage, water damage, we have them in boxes to protect them. Finding aids and indexes. Finding aids and indexes, they help the researchers find who or what information you're looking for. like a table of contents or an index in the back of a book. Now, most of our bound records, our books, do have indexes, handwritten indexes. Usually they're alphabetical by an individual's last name, but we have some books that don't have indexes or anything to find. I have on occasion had a patron come in and say, well, I'd like to find this in this book. This is the right time period. This is the right record series. And I'd have to say, well, I'm sorry, there's no index. You'll just have to look page by page by page to find a name, or find the information you're looking for. So if we don't have an index, we have been the last 3 or 4 years, myself and Paulette and Starla helps us also, and Ricky also helped us make an index also. They're very simple finding aids. They're usually just the name and the page number. So we leave it up to the researcher. They can look at the actual record to find out, oh, what did my John Smith do on this page in this record, So, and then once it's typed up, then we just place it with the record for use. One index that I'm really proud of, that we've put together in the last few years, and it's ongoing, is we've decided to make an index of enslaved persons. And this is not found, this index is, of course, this finding aid is not found from just one record, one book, or one record series, but as we come across information in the different records we go through and process, we make a little file card, and then we enter it into our index. Our indexes are just Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, just very simple. But the index of enslaved persons includes the enslaver's name, the enslaved person's name, their age, if it's available, if it's there, their gender, and then if they were hired, lent, sold, or willed to someone else. And then the type of record, where the record series, where it could be found, where it was found, and the year of the record. And then any notes, any other notes. So for example, there we have the one enslaver's name was John Blair. The year was 1843 of the year of the record. The year the record was created was 1843. The enslaved person's name is Isaac. His age is 47. His gender is male. He was either hired, lent, sold, or willed to James Blair. And then that record can be found in the clerk and master probate court records under John Blair in his probate court file. John Blair, he's the decedent. So we're very proud of that. We're all three of us, I think, right now are in the process of working on indexes right now, various indexes, circuit court minute books. Paulette is working on a county, since her son is the county trustee. Billy Burkhead is Paulette's son. She's working on the first county trustee tax book that we have anyway. I think it's 1822 to the early 1830s or something like that. So she's working on that one. Okay, so just some interesting things that we've come across. Biographical sketches. You can find out a lot about individuals. The one on the left on this slide is Wes Top. This is all information from one record. It's a request for poll tax release based on his age being over 50. And this was in 1901. You know, a male did not pay poll tax if they were under the age of 18 or over the age of 50. So he was requesting to be released from paying poll tax. And in this request, he tells us that he was born a slave in Natchez, Mississippi in October 1847. He was sold with his mother at the age of 12 in New Orleans, Louisiana. He was purchased and owned by Robertson Top of Shelby County, Tennessee, until the Emancipation Proclamation. And at the time of this request to be released from the poll tax, he was a citizen of Madison County, and he was employed by the Jackson Oil Mills. So just look at the wealth of, if anyone needs to know anything about Wes Top, that really tells a lot about him. On the right is William Freeman. His petition was to the county court to hawk and peddle without a license in Madison County in 1903. He told the county court he was an ex-Confederate soldier. He belonged to the 15th Arkansas Regiment of Artillery, Woods Brigade, and he was crippled. He had lost one leg in the Battle of Chickamauga. So he was incapacitated from doing manual labor. That's why he wanted to hawk and peddle without having to pay a business license. So, again, some more wealth of information, just, tells their story. And then also we find children, minors, in some of the records. On the left are the Huntington siblings. They were the children of mulatto Willis Huntington. He died in 1852. The children's names were Sarah, William, Millie, or Willie. Cursive M's and W's. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. So it's Millie or Willie. And then Lewis and Frances Victoria. And the probate and apprenticeship records that this comes from, they show that the children were bound as apprentices to Thomas Lackey and Thomas H. Rice in 1853. And then they were later wards of guardian Thomas Lackey. And in this record, all the children have birth dates listed. Now, how accurate, they are, but they're there. But, so birth dates are there for those children. On the right are the Klink children. Their father was Frederick Klink. He left his children with his father-in-law, William J. Spencer, when their mother, Mary Spencer Klink, died in 1859. These children were named William F., Tennessee A., Martha, and James Henry, and they did not receive any support from their father, according to their grandfather. And so their grandfather, William J. Spencer, petitioned the court to bind them to him as apprentices, and he agreed that he would meet their needs. So again, just a wealth of information there. All right, two more. On the left is J.J. Knoll. He had written a letter to a Mr. Pope to prove that he had left supplies for his wife and children when he left them to go to work. His wife's name was Virgie, and he left Virgie and the children before 1918 to work in lumber camps. Cairo, Illinois, Charleston, Missouri, in Hickman, Kentucky, Tiptonville, Tennessee, and New Madrid, Missouri. And in the letter, he stated that he came back from the Army in 1918, and he worked in Ridgely, Tennessee, and he was accusing his estranged wife of trying to give the children away in 1920. So I'm not sure who the Mr. Pope was that he was writing to, but he was trying to make his case there. And then on the right is Milton Mayo Shoemaker. In 1947, there was a Journal Sessions case. There was an altercation over his personal property that was in the possession of his mother. He was born in November 3rd, 1923 in Escanaba, Michigan, to Dr. Milton J. Shoemaker and Dr. Willie Mayo Shoemaker, and she was a native of Jackson. He graduated from high school here in Jackson in 1941 and entered Marion Military Institute in Marion, Alabama. He was a decorated captain in the Air Force during World War II. Unfortunately, he died in a crash during plane maneuvers in New Orleans in 1949 after the war. And this record has lots of military letters and correspondence with military people about his story.
Lorri, he's buried in Arlington National Cemetery.
He's in Arlington National Cemetery. I believe his mother, Dr. Shoemaker, and the father too, I think were chiropractors, I think.
His mother was.
Yeah, that we looked that up. So. This is E.K. McKnight. He's the blind performer. We've talked about him before. Yeah, you know him?
He's a relative.
She knows him. Okay. The playbill on the left, his advertisement, his playbill, we have a copy of that. That's a scan from the actual copy. He was from Yorkville, Gibson County, and he petitioned the Madison County Court in 1884 to be released of county tax while he was working in this county, because other counties had done the same for him. And he made his living as an entertainer, showing magic lantern projections and performing sleight of hand tricks. And he was blind, and so he stated this was his only way of making a living. playbill has lots of, you can't read it all up there, but it has lots of really descriptive imagery, words there. Coming, fun, and entertainment for the million, it says. It talks about. This is the International Sweethearts of Rhythm. They were an all-girls swing band organized in 1937 at Piney Woods School in Mississippi. And they had a stop here in Jackson, Tennessee in 1942. But their stop resulted in a circuit court civil case. The school's founder, Professor Jones, I think his name was, he made a claim that they had stolen instruments from the school. The band was trying to break away. The girls were trying to break away from the school at that time. Mostly because even though they were sent out by the founder of the school, they were sent out to make money for the school doing these performances, but because they missed classes and missed school, they were not allowed, a lot of them were not allowed to graduate. So it was sort of a catch-22 for them. So they were trying to break away from the school and just be a band, a swing band. So that's how all that happened. The judge did rule in favor of the band in the court case. He said the instruments were theirs to be used, and that was good. Anyway, at this time, during this time, Mabel Louise Smith, Big Maybelle, who was born here in Jackson in May of 1924, she was possibly, I'm going to say probably, with the band at this time, because she was one of the lead singers of the band from 1936 to 1944, and they were here in Jackson in 1942, so I'm thinking she was here. The picture, of course, there in the middle is sort of Big Maybelle at her heyday. The picture on the right, I don't have a date for that, but I did find it online. Sweethearts of Rhythm now on the West Coast. It's not when they were here in Jackson, but it's during that time period. And I'm almost positive the young lady third from the right standing on the back row with the red oval around her face, I'm thinking that is Big Maybelle. That still doesn't prove necessarily that, you know, she was singing with them at that time, but I think that she was. So that's interesting. That's an interesting court case.
Lorri, some of them sitting here may remember 2 or 3 years back when Rosie Robinson spoke one night and portrayed Big Maybelle here at the genealogy
Yes,
society.
I remember that, yes.
And doesn't she have a state marker?
Yes.
Yes, she has now. Down here at Civic Center. Ooh, blue paper. That's a quote from Starla Dugan. When she comes in, she goes, ooh, blue paper. She gets all excited. You can't really tell so much that these are blue, but they are sort of a light blue. That's blue paper with rag content. It's thick. It's very thick paper, durable paper. It's used primarily in the 1850s in our Madison County records. Again, Starla gets very excited when she sees that. This example is a marriage license, and a marriage license on the left, and the bond is on the right, of James Akers to Mrs. Mary Melly, June 6, 1857. Another thing that makes this interesting, the bond on the right at the bottom is signed by Adam Huntsman, that famous timber-toed politician of Madison County who defeated Davy Crockett in 1834 congressional race.
Well, Adam's well known for being on the cover of Family Findings 2 years ago. That's what he's famous for.
Oh, okay. So speaking of marriages, marriage records, marriage licenses, we do have record of marriages. We have marriage files. Those are the licenses that were returned to the county clerk's office after the ceremony. They date, we have one in 1845 and then from 1850 to 2008. They're fairly complete. We have the actual papers, the actual licenses. Those include the groom's name, the bride's name, the date the license was issued, the clerk's name, the date the marriage was solemnized, and the officiant's name. And we have those arranged again by decades and the groom's last name. Now, we do have some license, very small time span, from 1882 and 1883. They have additional detailed information about the bridegroom and the bride on the back. Their ages, the color of parties, the place of birth, their residence, and their occupation. But it's just a very small time span there that we have those. And then we also have record of marriages, bound volumes. Those are the books that are signed, that you sign at the county clerk's office in the courthouse. And we have those from 1838 to 1965. There are some gaps there, so that's mixed years. That's the letterhead there of some of the licenses. Probate court records, we have those. They may contain an inside look at an ancestor's daily life with records of inventories of estates, accounts of estate sales, insolvent estate bills and receipts. They may list heirs and distributions to heirs, including personal property and land. They also may provide information on court cases involving the estate. And we have those from the 1830s to about 1950, various years. The one on the left there, some more blue paper, an account of the sale of the personal property of William L. Graves, I think it's Graves. And then the one on the right is fairly interesting. It's a Mrs. Sally A, maybe bigger, Cole, bought at Memphis in dry goods and groceries, $287.17. And so it's basically her grocery list. But for whatever reason, it's in her probate court records. So that was kind of interesting. We also have record of wills. We have will books from 1825 to 1946. We have an index to will books from 1845 to 1985, but we don't have the books up to 1985, but we do have an index, so we can tell you if someone, more recent, if they do have a will recorded with Madison County. This is an example. This is Mary L. Sanders' will. It was proven at the January term in 1860 of the Madison County Court. Item first, all debts are to be paid. And then item second, $1 paid to daughter Mary Ann Webb. And then the third item is the residue of her estate to be divided equally between her sons, William S.H. Sanders, Joshua J. Sanders, John M. Sanders, her daughter Tabitha T. Pounds, and her granddaughter Melissa Elizabeth Moore. I'm not sure why daughter Mary Ann only got $1. There's the will, the record of the will. We also do have tax books, record of taxes. And of course, these are great. They can be used to prove residency of individuals at a certain time. The first book is 1822 to 1831. That's the one Paulette is working on an index right now. And then we got a little gap, and then it jumps to 1874 to 2008. And it's pretty complete. After 1900, it's pretty complete. Most of them are divided by county districts and city wards, and then the taxpayers are listed alphabetically within each of those districts and wards. So some of those books really don't need an index. It might take a little longer to look at them, but most of them don't really need an index. Of course, some tax books do list property owners adjoining the taxpayer's property. Who owns to the east, west, north, and south of the person. So that's always interesting. This slide is showing the page out of the 1921 tax book. That's the first one we have, of course, here in our county to list women paying poll tax in order to vote. So there's the woman polls, and it's alphabetical, and they pay $2. There's Mrs. John L. Allen, Mrs. Dick Askew. It goes on, and then the last name's B and C. Actually, back when they were doing the State Library and Archives was commemorating the anniversary of women being given the vote, a representative came and she looked at some of our books and got some information from it. She said, when was the first, we have records showing the first time women voted here in Madison County or paid the poll tax to vote. So where it would do some of that.
And did they list women separate?
Yes, they listed the women separate. Well, in some of them, I think they do. There might be some others where they're in with the others. Each tax book is kind of set up differently, different columns and different, it's kind of arranged a little differently. But in that book, yes, they were separate. So, since Valentine's Day is coming up here, February 14th, Friday, I thought we'd talk just a little bit. We'd end with love in the archives. We do have some love letters in the archives. Sometimes we find in the records. Some of them are hate letters, but most of them are love letters. Some of them are love letters. So I just wanted to read you a few excerpts and things I thought were funny. Oh, how I would like to be with you tonight. It seems like a year since I last saw you. Say, sweetheart, I am just crazy to see you. Sweet, write me a long letter and tell me all about yourself and everything you know. With lots of love to you and good wishes. I am all alone and thinking of a little boy that I sure want to see. You are the only boy I have ever loved, and dearest, I will never love another as I have loved you. What will I have to do to win your love again? For I will swear I love you better than anyone else in the world. Won't you let me have the place in your heart I once had? Listen, precious. I believe you are loving some girl over there. Please don't. For sweetheart, I don't want you to love anybody else. For you know how jealous I always was. Just a little worse now. I will swear I believe it would kill me to see you touch another girl, for I want you alone. If you love the other girl best, well, I not bother you all. But you I love better than anybody, but I guess I can learn to love some of these Jacksons. I haven't had any loving since you went away. What will become of me, this love of mine? And then the last one, darling, you know I'll be standing by to do any and everything I can, and I'll be by your side no matter what happens. God be with you, sweetheart, and know I love you.
Well, Lorri, how does the archives get these letters?
I can tell you one of them is part of a divorce case.
Probably the third one.
It's part of a divorce case. A lot of them, I think, are parts of divorce cases.
Well, that makes sense, but.
Yeah.
Yes.
And destroy anything that you might need to destroy. So we have a lot of fun. We have fun at the archives. We have fun. We accept volunteers also. Who wants to come and volunteer? You'll probably be pulling staples, or you might help with aid index, make an index, or finding aid. But we have a lot of fun with what we find. We are open Monday through Friday. This is just our office information. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. We are closed on federal holidays since we are a county office. And we're located at 1981 Hollywood Drive, Suite 300. That is the old Hickory Academy building, right across the street from Poplar Heights Baptist Church. We're on the north end, the end next to the Boy Scout office. And there's our phone numbers. We do have a website. I think if you go to the Madison County, Tennessee website, I think it links to that. But we have an outside website. It's a GILA site. And there's our archives email. We do help patrons, email requests, phone calls. You can come in person. We'll help you however we can. And then there's my information, my email, and Paulette's email.
I read some of my findings for the divorces. They've been reading them for several years.
That's right. You've been reading about some of the divorces that Starla has put in the family findings.
I have gleaned a lot.
Listen, Lorri, I know that a lot of the recent records, they have to keep at the courthouse because they use them.
Right.
Is there a general timeline for how old they'll let a record be before they'll transfer it from the courthouse to the archives?
Well, that's pretty much up to the office, the office holder, yeah,
Okay.
the official of the office, or the director of the office. We try, because of space, we really try not to have any records younger than 70 years old.
70 years
Yes,
old, so that
or,
might be-
and some of them are 50 years old, but 70 years old is sort of what we like to have. Of course, if they come over and we can make space for them and we can process them, you know, we have marriage licenses up to 2008. So we have circuit court civil cases up to 2003 and criminal cases up to 1994. So, of course, a lot of people think that's old. You know, I gotta look for an old record from 1992. That's really not that old.
Are you out of space?
Space is always an issue.
You need another building?
Sure, yes.
I have that one.
Yes.
Is there room to build?
No. That's all sort of being discussed and in the works. If you'd like to attend a county commission meeting or a Madison County Property Committee meeting, that's all sort of in the works. Everyone in that building now that is the Madison County complex. Every office in there is a Madison County office. We share the building with, the election commission is now there in the middle of the building, and the finance department. So we three are there.
Run them away and take over the whole thing.
From your mouth to the mayor's ears. No.
Unfortunately, it's just the reverse of that.
Yeah, that sort of has to be the reverse.
And Lorri, what year was the archives formed?
Before I was there, I think in its current form, 2009,
2000?
I think. It might have been, Ricky may know, it might have been,
Well,
that-
of course, I should be asking the
Yeah.
historian.
I don't know,
I
I do
can't
know that,
remember. I think I have it on the website actually, but I can't really remember.
I do know that just on the Facebook page that I do about today, Madison County history, just in the past week, I had a posting, and I don't remember the year exactly, but it was not that long ago, I think it was in the 1990s, that there was something about, they had a lot of records stored in the basement of the Pythian building.
Yes.
And the water line burst and flooded the basement.
Oh, boy.
Because several
I think that was
people,
96,
several people
1996.
rang in and asked, why were these records not in the archives? Why were they in the basement of the Pythian?
Well, because an archives
Because
didn't
the archives
exist
didn't
at that
exist
time.
yet at that
Yeah.
time.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so they were stashing records anywhere they could get them.
Each county in the state, you know, that's up to them. They decide themselves if they're going to have an archives or not. Of course, the Tennessee State Library and Archives and the Secretary of State's office, they want every county to have an archives, of course. But that's, you know, it's just up to every county to develop one. You have to have an active public records commission. They need to meet twice a year, to stay active. And then they sort of, oversee the archives and the disposition of the records. Yes.
You do have on your website, the archives was first established in 1999 in downtown Jackson, relocated to Old Union University campus, and finally moved to the present location in 2009.
2009.
The old Union, where's that at?
The old Union campus off of East Main
In
and
East Jackson,
East Jackson.
right over there.
Is that building still there?
There's a few dorm buildings still there, and then the Walter Baker Harris, that was Union's administration building, that's where probate court is, and juvenile court is. That's on Irby Street. Does that sound right?
So I know that some of the records that you have, deed records and some of those things, are available in other places from that
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Is there anything in particular that comes to mind to you that is a good genealogical resource? It's just not available anywhere but in your archives? I know you and I have looked at court records and minutes.
Court cases, yes, court cases. I really don't know if those county legislative body minutes would be really considered have genealogical information, lots of good history information in those. Our probate court records, the clerk and master, anything, the guardianships, the probate court records, all of those things, those have been scanned. They are available, you know, the scans of those are on Family Search. They came and did that. It's been, she did that like in 2012, I think, or 13 or something. So they've been over 10 years. So those are available online, scans, actual scans of the records.
A lot of those loose court records are not available anywhere else, I don't think.
No, those were not scanned because, of course, Family Search was only interested in genealogical, you know, information. So, no, none of the court records have been scanned. A lot of our bound volumes have been microfilmed when the State Library and Archives had the microfilm program. I think the last time that was at like 2003. They are microfilmed, and in the inside front cover of the book, they have a stamp there if it's been microfilmed. So those are available, and of course, copies of the microfilm are here at the Tennessee Room. We do not have any microfilm. We don't have a reader, and we don't have microfilm. We've got the real deal. We've got the original.
Helen Johnson put in many years working on the records from the courthouse to get them organized, to start the archives and to get them going. She had several.
Sandra Kelly.
Sandra Kelly was one, and I was one, and there were several more through the years.
I found the loose record in there one day of like a great uncle who lived in Chester County. He was in the Confederate Army, but he had made a coffin for a pauper, and he was wanting the court to pay him. So I guess that was when that part of was Madison County, and then it became Chester County.
Yes.
You have other surrounding counties that might have records there.
Only if it was the parts of Madison County that are now Crockett County and Chester County. You know, only, you know, that were still Madison County at that time. We don't have any other county records, no. You understand what I'm saying?
Do you ever send anything to the state archives?
No, they basically have everything that we have, microfilmed or,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
they basically, and then, loose records, loose records, we're sort of like, you know, counties are sort of like are an agent of the state government.
Yeah.
So, but then of course there are things that they have that we do not have. We do not have birth certificates. We don't have death certificates. A lot of people ask for those.
Do you have any kind of a guesstimate how many volumes or how many feet of records or whatever kind of measurement you got?
No, because I'm terrible about that. Just last summer, I did complete a course from the Association of Local and State History, I think it's called. I completed a course and I did make an accession list and tried to list location and the record type and all of that. But I do not actually have a count of what we have. You'll just have to come and see.
I had gone over to see Lorri last week or week before last when I was looking about the George Barnes arrest. And we had found that a man named George Barnes had once been arrested for bootlegging in Madison County. Well, sure enough, she found the actual loose record file and folder about this thing. And George Barnes, a few years later, became Machine Gun Kelly, one of the more infamous gangsters in American history. But she actually found all of the loose records that were the police officers' testimonies of here's why I arrested him, and then where they were questioning him about how that whiskey get in your trunk, and he said, I don't know. Somebody put a George bottle of whiskey in my trunk. But it was really interesting to see these loose original papers from where they had arrested this guy in 1922.
Madison County has been really lucky. A lot of the other surrounding counties, you know, have had fires and floods and all. We've had some floods, but Madison County's never had a fire that's destroyed, you know, records.
So by and large, your records are pretty much complete.
Pretty much complete, yeah. If they didn't walk away with an attorney, you know, a lawyer, or something like that, you know, court case.
I do remember I was looking for something and Ahmad said that during the Civil War, some of the records were burned.
Yes.
Thank you. For warrant, which unfortunately is the time that my family is here.
Well, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Deed Book 22, that's the myth, you know, they took it out and the soldiers took it out and burned it in the road. But we don't have Deed Book 22, so something did happen to it.
If we were researching property, like we wanted to know, who owned our property before, years back, how do we get that started? I know you told me with it before, but I forgot. Do we bring our deed in and you look up that book and then just keep going back?
That's how I do it. No one has taught me how to do that, but that's like a title search. That's what I do. If you're, and we, in the Register of Deeds office, Angie Myers, she does let us use her title searcher software online, so we're able to look at that. So yeah, that's what we usually start with, maybe an address and see who the current owners is. And you pull that deed book and hopefully it's gonna say, this being the same property as recorded in deed book, you know, it tells previously, and you just keep going back. Just keep going back. They don't always tell you who owned it before. It doesn't always tell you that. Sometimes the property, you know, gets divided and it runs you off into lots of different, you know, deed books. But sometimes we have pretty good success with that.
Is there a charge if you can do that?
No charge, no. We are not professional genealogists, and we're not even really professional record keepers, but we will try to help you find the record that can give you the information. We can't interpret the record necessarily.
And if it's all blue paper, Starling gets billed.
And we've developed, when we come across cases that leave a question in your mind about what happened, we make up our own ending.
A lot of speculation goes on in the archives. Any more questions or comments? Everyone's welcome to come. Yes, honey.
Can you go back to the beginning on there?
I think I'm there, am I not?
All right, the next page, yeah. Okay. That on the right, my wife did that.
You know, when I first started working there, some of the books, we found a few books that were totally blank. Those big, huge ledger books and all, totally blank, not any words written in them at all, nothing written in them at all. So I asked Mr. Auld, hey, did I have some of those? And all cracked with them. So I made
Fantastic.
the read there, so that's in their archives.
All right, great.
Paper cone read.
Excellent.
Thank you.